Welcome back to DeFi Research Corner. You guys remember our last deep dive, the one where we went full matrix?
Oh, yeah, the one about AI agents and how the web's, like, disappearing.
Exactly.
Hi.
It was based on Outlier Ventures research on the post-web.
Yeah, Outlier Ventures. Their take on it definitely got some people talking, that's for sure.
That's what we aim for, right? To explore the most cutting-edge DeFi research out there, even if it, melts our brains a little bit in the process.
Speaking of brain melting, the paper we're looking at today builds on that whole AI agent thing and tackles what's called the post-web technology stack.
Ooh, a technology stack. Sounds kind of fancy.
It is pretty fancy.
So are we basically talking Web 3 here, but with a sprinkle of AI on top?
It's way more than just a sprinkle. See, Web 3 gave us blockchain and decentralization, right? But the post-web, it takes it a step further. It's all about how three key technologies work together. AI agents, DLT, which you know, and DePIN. That's decentralized physical infrastructure networks, just in case anyone's not familiar with the acronym yet.
DePIN, got it. Okay, I'm already seeing a pattern here. Lots of moving parts.
Lots of moving parts, yep. And those parts, they create this kind of flywheel effect.
Flywheel effect, how's that work?
So for example, as we get more and more AI agents doing stuff for us, they'll need way more powerful infrastructure, right? That's where DePIN comes in. But then we'll also need much greater trust and verification for all those actions those agents are taking. And that's where DLT steps up our good old blockchain tech.
So each part is boosting the others.
Exactly. Each one fuels the others, and that makes the whole system go faster and faster.
Okay, I kind of get it. It's like a three-legged race where hopefully everyone wins and nobody falls flat on their face.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But to really get how this race is going to play out, we need to look closer at this post-web technology stack thing.
All right, let's break it down. What are the layers in this stack?
Imagine like a diagram, right?
Okay, I'm picturing it.
At the bottom, we've got the stuff from Web3, wallets, dApps, and of course the all-important DLT. That's our bedrock of trust and transparency, you know. Then, on top of that, we add a layer of resources and infrastructure. This is where the DePIN comes in.
Got it. So far, it's pretty Web3. What makes it post-web then?
Two big additions. First, there's the Agentic Layer. This is where all those AI agents live and learn and do their thing.
Sounds powerful, but also, I gotta admit, a little bit creepy. Like giving control of the internet to a bunch of robots.
That's why the second edition is so important. The thin web. Think of it as like a slimmed down, super efficient interface for all the stuff that AI agents can't handle yet. It's how humans will interact with the post-web, even as agents take on more tasks.
So it's like the agents are on autopilot, but we humans are still in the cockpit, ready to take over if we need to.
Perfect analogy. And this brings us to a really interesting shift in how we use the internet. In the post-web, you're not just passively consuming stuff anymore. You become much more of an active participant.
Hold on, I thought the whole point of AI agents was to make our lives easier, not harder.
It is about making things easier, but it's more like collaborative. For example, you might contribute your own hardware or data or even energy to the network and get benefits in return.
Wait, contribute my own stuff. I don't know about that. Sounds like those bring your own device policies at work. Not always a fan.
I get it, but imagine, you could contribute your computer's extra processing power to a DePIN network and earn some tokens while you're asleep. Like a little side hustle for your devices. Helps with decentralization, and you could get some extra crypto.
Okay, now you're talking my language. Earning while I sleep. That's a post-web I can get behind. But what about the stuff that still needs, a human touch? What am I actually doing on this thin web?
That's where all the stuff needing human thinking comes in. But even the thin web will be totally different from the internet we know today. Think voice-driven. It anticipates your needs, all powered by AI behind the scenes. No more clicking and scrolling forever, just natural interaction.
So I could be like, hey, thin web, book me a vacation someplace warm where the AI hasn't taken over, and it just happens.
Pretty much, yeah. Though hopefully we can train our AI to be a little nicer than Hollywood makes them out to be.
Fingers crossed on that one.
Mm-hmm.
But all this talk of AI taking over tasks, it makes me think about governance. If we're giving all this power to these agents, how do we make sure they're actually working for us?
That's the big question, isn't it? And it's one the current internet, with all its centralized power, hasn't really figured out. But the post-web has a different idea, one that uses DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations.
Right, DAOs. The idea is awesome in theory. Spreading out the decision-making, no single point of failure. But honestly, actually using DAOs, it's been kind of clunky. low voter turnout, proposals that are impossible to understand, and it feels like the same big players are always in control.
You've hit the nail on the head. Those are some of the big problems with DAOs today. But guess what? AI agents could be the key to making them work the way they're supposed to.
Okay, now I'm interested. How do AI agents fix DAO democracy?
Think about it. You could delegate your voting power to an AI agent. This agent, since it's super smart and always learning, it can analyze all those complicated proposals and vote based on what you want. It's like having a personal representative in every DAO you care about.
So instead of me trying to figure out some crazy proposal about decentralized goat yoga or whatever, my agent just votes yes to more sunshine and no to robot overlords based on my general vibe.
Basically, yeah, it streamlines everything, so we might actually get better decisions and more people participating. Of course, there are some risks, like what if the agents are biased in how they're programmed? We wouldn't want a bunch of well-meaning robots accidentally becoming tyrants.
True. Even with the best intentions, too much power without any checks and balances can go wrong. Maybe we should talk more about this agentic layer before we accidentally create Skynet. Like, what can these agents actually do? How do they even work?
Excellent point. Let's dive deeper into the world of agents in the post-web.
Okay, so AI agents are going to be like the big players in this post-web, but they're not just going to be running around doing whatever they want, right? There have to be, like, rules.
Absolutely. And those rules are set on the blockchain, on the DLT. It's kind of like the Wild West out there, but instead of sheriffs and saloons, we have smart contracts and DAOs keeping things in check.
So every time an agent does something, whether it's buying or selling tokens or booking my vacation, it all gets recorded on the blockchain.
Exactly. Everything needs to be verified and recorded on the blockchain. It keeps everything transparent and accountable. You know, that's what blockchain does best.
Okay, yeah. Transparency and accountability, that's good. But doesn't all that on-chain activity get kind of expensive? All those transaction fees, won't they eat into my agent's profits? And I'm expecting a cut of those profits.
You're right. We can't have those agents drowning in gas fees. That's where solutions like optimistic rollups come in.
Optimistic rollups, what are those?
So instead of verifying every single action on the main blockchain, optimistic rollups, they kind of bundle transactions together and only check for any problems or weird stuff.
So it's like, trust but verify.
Uh-huh.
We assume most agents are playing by the rules, but we have a system to catch the bad guys.
Yeah. It's all about finding that balance between security and making things run smoothly. We want the system to be tough enough to handle tons of agent activity without slowing down or getting super expensive.
So optimistic rollups are like the express lane for all those agent transactions.
Exactly. Keeping things moving. But even express lanes can get jammed up when things get busy.
Right. What happens when the post-web is just packed with agents zipping around doing their thing?
That's when it gets really interesting. We might see something new emerge called agentic rollups. It'd be a whole new way to handle all those agent-driven transactions built specifically for them.
Agentic rollups.
Yep.
Okay, that sounds pretty complex. But you know what's been on my mind? We've talked a lot about the tech, the infrastructure, but how does all of this actually make money? What's the business model here?
Great question. It's not all sunshine and rainbows and robot butlers, you know? The economics of this post-web, they're complicated. That's where tokens come in. Remember those 5 roles they play: driving network effects, governance, being a currency for agents, preventing AI monopolies, and incentivizing agents to do a good job.
Yeah, I remember those. It sounds important, but like, how do they actually work in the real world? Are we talking about like pizza tokens that agents get paid in for delivering virtual pizzas?
Not pizza tokens, but you're getting the idea. Let's start with those network effects. In the post-web, it's not just users attracting users, you know. It's about agents attracting users, agents attracting other agents, and the whole thing growing because of all that activity.
Okay, so it's like a giant network where everyone's contributing to make it bigger and
Yeah.
better, right? But where do tokens fit into all of this?
Tokens are like the fuel that makes it all go. They encourage people to participate, reward users for contributing, and create a shared sense of value. Think of tokens like the currency of this whole new agent economy.
So tokens are like the loyalty points of the post-web, but with real value. So I could earn tokens for sharing my data or contributing my computing power or even just by being an active user.
Exactly. And then you can use those tokens to buy stuff, access special content, or even participate in how things are governed.
Which reminds me, you mentioned tokens play a role in governance too. So are we voting with our tokens,
Hmm.
like a digital democracy.
That's the idea. Tokens ensure that the decision-making is spread out so no one entity can control the whole network. It's power to the token holders.
Okay, I like the sound of this decentralized, token-powered future.
Hmm.
But we've been focusing on the digital world. What of the real world? Like, how do all these digital assets and AI agents actually affect our lives?
That's where it gets really exciting. The post-web isn't just about virtual reality or online stuff. It's about blending the lines between the digital and physical worlds, and that's where DeMent comes in.
Right, DePIN. We talked about it a little before. How does it all work?
Imagine it like a marketplace. On one side, you have people with extra computing power, storage, or bandwidth. On the other side, you have people who need those resources. And what connects them? Tokens.
So it's like the sharing economy, but for our devices.
Yeah,
Like, I could rent out my computer's processing power when I'm not using it, or share my extra storage space with someone on the other side of the world.
exactly. DePIN lets people make money from their unused resources and access cheaper, better services. It's a win-win situation.
Except maybe not for the big, centralized providers who are about to get disrupted.
You got it. But DePIN is about more than just sharing your laptop's hard drive.
Really? Like what?
Think about all the processing power needed for things like training AI models, running simulations, creating those amazing graphics you see in like metaverse games. DeepIn can make that power available to anyone, not just the huge companies with giant data centers.
So, like, I could be contributing to developing cutting-edge AI just by letting my computer run in the background. That's pretty wild.
Exactly. And then there's storage. We're making more data than ever, and DePIN provides a safe, decentralized way to store it all. Think of it like a global hard drive, but way more efficient and resilient because it's spread out.
So no more worrying about all my cat videos taking up space on my phone. I'm sold. But wait, what about bandwidth? That's like the internet's lifeblood, and it's not cheap or equally available everywhere.
That's another area where DePIN can really make a difference. By tapping into a network of bandwidth providers all over the world, we can make high-speed internet more affordable and accessible for everyone, especially in places that don't have good access right now.
Wow, okay, DePIN is officially on my radar. It's like the ultimate sharing economy. But this all sounds so futuristic. Are we talking about years down the road, or is this happening now?
The post-web is already being built. We're seeing projects testing DePIN networks for compute power, storage, bandwidth, all of it. It's still early, but the potential is huge. And DePIN is just one example of how the post-web is breaking down the walls between the digital world and the physical world.
Wait, there's more. My brain is already trying to catch up.
Buckle up, because this next part is even more mind-blowing. We're talking about real-world assets, things like real estate, art, and intellectual property, all making their way onto the blockchain.
Whoa, hold on. Tokenized real estate. So I could actually own like a virtual plot of land in the metaverse, and it'd be recorded on the blockchain.
You absolutely could, and it goes beyond virtual worlds. Tokenized real estate could totally change how we buy and sell property in the real world, making it way more efficient and transparent. No more mountains of paperwork or shady middlemen.
So I could buy a virtual apartment in the metaverse A&D, a real-world timeshare on some tropical island, all with a few clicks and a secure record on the blockchain. Sign me up.
I'll get the paperwork started. But it's not just real estate. Imagine owning a tiny piece of a famous painting through tokenized artwork, or investing in an up-and-coming artist's work before they get super famous. It makes art accessible to everyone.
So instead of needing millions to buy a Picasso, I could own a tiny fraction of it and show it off in my virtual living room. I love it.
Exactly. And then there's intellectual property. Tokenized IP could revolutionize how we create and share ideas. Musicians, writers, inventors, they could all benefit from a system where they can make money from their work more fairly and easily.
It's like giving creators superpowers. They have control over their work, they can connect directly with their fans, and they don't need a middleman taking a cut. This all sounds incredible, almost too good to be true.
There have to be some challenges, right? What are the roadblocks we need to overcome to make this post-web actually happen?
You're right, it's not all easy. One of the biggest challenges is interoperability. Remember all those different layers of the DLT stack, each specialized for a specific task. We need to make sure they can all work together smoothly, like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, makes sense. You don't want your fancy new AI agent trying to buy you a coffee with tokens that are meant for governing a DePIN network, right? Exactly. We need standards and rules and frameworks that let different blockchain platforms and applications talk to each other and exchange information. If we don't have that, We end up with a bunch of separate systems that can't work together, which defeats the whole purpose of decentralization.
So interoperability is like the universal language of the post-web, making sure everyone can understand each other. Got it. But I'm guessing there's more to it than just tech challenges.
You're right, the real world is messy. We also need to think about the legal and regulatory side of things. The post-web is going to disrupt a lot of traditional industries, and governments are still figuring out how to regulate this whole new digital world.
It's like trying to build a spaceship while the laws of physics are still being written.
Yeah, it's tricky. We need to work with regulators to create clear rules that encourage innovation while also protecting consumers and making sure things are ethical. It's a balancing act for sure.
Balancing act. Got it. That seems to be a theme for this whole post-web thing, right? Balancing security and efficiency, control and autonomy, the digital and the physical. But hey, I'm up for the challenge. What about you? What are you most excited about in this new internet?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
For me, it's the potential for more economic fairness. The post-web could give people more control over their data, their resources, and their finances. It's a chance to build a more equitable digital economy that works for everyone, not just a select few.
I love that. And I'm also excited about all the potential for creativity and innovation. The post-web is like a blank slate for new ideas, new ways of doing business, new ways of connecting. It's like the Wild West, but with coding instead of guns.
That's a great way to put it. But we've covered a lot of ground today. It's time to get our listeners involved. What are your thoughts on all this, folks?
Yeah. What excites you about the post-web? What are your hopes and fears? What questions are you grappling with? Join the conversation. We're all figuring this out together.
And as we delve deeper into this world of AI agents and all this new tech, there's one really important question we need to ask. How do we, as humans, maintain our own agency?
Right. How do we make sure that this technology serves us and not the other way around? That's a question we'll be tackling in the next and final part of this deep dive.
Until then, stay curious, stay engaged, and stay ahead of the curve in the world of DeFi and beyond.
We'll see you next time. All right, welcome back for the final part of our deep dive into the post-web technology stack.
Yeah, we've covered a lot, haven't we? From AI agents and DAOs to DePIN and even like tokenized real estate.
It's been wild. But now we got to face the big question. How do we as humans stay in control in this world that's becoming more and more automated? It's like we're handing over the keys to our digital lives, but we still want to be able to, call shotgun.
Great analogy. And it's a question everyone's thinking about, especially as AI gets more powerful. We can't just become passive passengers in the post-web, just along for the ride while the agents make all the decisions.
Right. We don't want to end up like the digital equivalent of couch potatoes, just consuming whatever content gets thrown at us while our agents handle everything else. We got to be actively involved, shaping the future we want.
Exactly. And that starts with realizing there are different levels of control or agency at play here. Remember we talked about those different types of agents: responsive, operative, and autonomous.
Yeah, the responsive ones are kind of like the voice assistants we have now.
Yeah.
Right? Helpful, but limited. Operative agents can do a bit more, but still within some boundaries. And then there are the autonomous ones. Those are the ones that can make decisions on their own without any input from us. That's where it starts to feel like, the robots are taking over.
Well, those robot takeover stories are fun in movies, but the reality is probably going to be a lot more complicated. It's not us versus machines. It's about finding the right balance between human control and AI assistance.
So it's more like a partnership. We use AI for what it's good at. Speed, processing tons of data, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But we keep control over the big decisions, the things that really matter to us.
Exactly. And that balance will be different depending on what we're talking about. For some things, like managing money or saving energy, maybe we're fine with giving our agents a lot of autonomy. But for other things, like medical decisions or ethical stuff, we'd probably want to stay much more involved.
It makes sense. Like, I might trust an agent to help me invest my crypto based on, market trends and stuff, but I wouldn't want it deciding if I should have surgery without asking me first.
It's a perfect example. It shows how important clear communication and boundaries are between us and the AI agents. We need to be able to set limits, tell them what we want, and take back control if we need to.
So it's kind of like building a fence for our agents, making sure they stay where we want them to stay. But how do we know they'll actually do what's best for us, even if they stay within those limits? What if their goals aren't the same as ours? How do we stop them from, going rogue?
That's where things like verifiable credentials and reputation systems come in. In the post-web, agents will need to prove they're trustworthy. They'll need to have a history of acting ethically, doing what they're supposed to do, and following the rules we set.
So it's like Checking references before you hire someone, making sure they have a good reputation in the digital world.
Exactly. We'll need to be able to see an agent's track record, read reviews from other users, and verify their credentials. And this is where blockchain tech is really useful. It provides a record of everything an agent has done that can't be changed or faked, so we can make smart choices about who we trust.
So the blockchain is like a resume for our agents, showing their skills and experience and whether they can be trusted. I like that. But even with a good reputation system, it seems like we're still trusting these agents a lot. What's to stop them from, like, cutting corners or putting their own goals ahead of ours?
That's a valid point, and it's why we can't just look at what an agent has done in the past. We also need to be clear about what we expect them to do in the future. Set the rules of the game, so to speak, and create ways to hold them accountable.
So, like, giving them a code of ethics, a set of rules they have to follow.
Right, and those rules need to be clear and verifiable. That's where smart contracts come in. We can use them to define exactly how an agent is allowed to act, what data they can access, what decisions they can make, all that stuff.
Okay, so it's like writing a constitution for our agents, laying out all their rights and responsibilities. But wouldn't that be too restrictive? What if we end up over-regulating them and they can't learn and adapt and come up with new solutions? We want them to be creative.
Right, that's a great point. It's all about finding that balance again between control and freedom. We need to give them enough guidance to keep them ethical and aligned with our goals, but also enough space to innovate and, like you said, surprise us.
It's kind of like raising kids, right?
Yeah.
You set some rules and give them guidance, but you also want them to become independent and make their own choices.
Exactly. It's a partnership, not, a dictatorship. It takes communication, trust, and being willing to adapt. And all of this brings us back to how important governance is in this post-web world. We talked about how AI agents could make DAOs way better, more efficient, and fair, but we got to be aware of the risks too. What if these powerful agents take over the DAOs and start making decisions that only benefit them, not the whole community?
Yeah, that's a good question. How do we stop that from happening?
We need to design systems that guarantee transparency, accountability, and fairness, even when AI agents are involved. Maybe that means limiting how much voting power any one agent has, requiring humans to be involved in certain decisions, or creating ways to check up on what agents are doing and challenge them if needed.
So, like, checks and balances, just like in a democracy. Making sure power isn't concentrated in one place, that decisions are made out in the open, and that there are ways to appeal if something isn't right. But even with all that, this stuff still feels a little scary. Are we really ready for a world where AI is so powerful? What if we lose control? What if, the machines do take over?
I get it. Those fears are real, and they come from years of, science fiction stories about AI turning against us. But we're still in the early days of AI. We have the chance to shape this technology, make sure it evolves in a way that aligns with our values. It's not about being afraid of the future. It's about actively building the future we want.
That's right. We're not just watching this happen, we're a part of it. We have choices, we have power, and we can decide what kind of future we want. But it's not just about controlling AI. It's also about, like, what we do as humans. What are the skills and qualities that will set us apart as AI gets more capable? What makes us uniquely valuable?
That's the question we should all be thinking about. As AI gets better at doing the routine stuff, our human skills, things like critical thinking, creativity, empathy, emotional intelligence, those will become even more important. Those are the things that will help us solve complex problems, come up with new ideas, and connect with each other in a world that's becoming more and more tech-driven.
So it's not about becoming like robots ourselves, trying to be better than AI at what it does. It's about embracing what makes us human. Our ability to think critically, to feel, to connect with each other on a human level. And remembering that technology is a tool. It can be used for good or for bad, and it's up to us to decide how we use it.
You said it perfectly. The post-web, like any new technology, has both good and bad possibilities. It could help us create a more fair, efficient, and connected world. But it could also make existing problems worse, concentrate power in the wrong hands, and threaten our privacy and freedom. It's up to us to navigate this, make smart choices, and make sure technology serves us, not the other way around.
And that's definitely worth fighting for. So, to everyone listening, as you explore DeFi and the post-web, keep asking questions, keep challenging assumptions, and keep pushing for a future that benefits all of us. A future where tech empowers us, not controls us. A future where human creativity and AI can work together to create a world that's both advanced and human.
A world where we can all thrive as individuals and as a society. That's the post-web I want to see. I hope you'll join me in building it.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the post-web technology stack. We'll see you next time on DeFi Research Corner, where we'll keep exploring the latest in decentralized finance and what the future of the internet holds.